Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of bourbon. Doesn't matter. Okay. Andrew. Mr. Jeff. So this is Blanton's Bourbon. This stuff's kind of hard to find. I wrote something a while ago for what we are about to start here. So to start this off, if everyone doesn't mind, raise a glass. To good friends present and to those no longer with us. You are gone too soon, but will never be forgotten. So here's to you. May you rest in peace until we meet again.
Yep.
Cheers.
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 It's time to hit the trail. Lock in those hubs and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange. They're here to talk about 4x4s and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors.
That's good stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's strong.
Oh, it's good.
That is good
That's smooth,
stuff.
though, honestly.
It is.
Really smooth.
So what brings us here today is just remembrance of Keith. So everybody who listens kind of knows what's going on right now. So with us today, we have Jeff and Brett Codette, both brothers of Keith. Andrew, the producer, who is going to talk.
I'm back.
Proving to every single one of you out there, he is real. So as everybody knows, we started this with Keith almost 3 years ago. 3 years ago next month, I think. So here we are.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
I got my hand up. Brett's shirt to help him talk. He doesn't say much.
He's got his heads up in the clouds.
It's all good.
He talks more than Andrew, the producer.
This is true. This is true. We spent a long time trying to get him to talk, and for a long time, nobody believed he existed. It was great.
There's about 3 episodes where you hear me yelling
In the
background.
distance, yeah.
Keith did all enough talking for the whole family for us.
Oh,
so.
God,
sure
for
did.
all of us, yeah. I mean, you listen to most of the episodes, it's Keith, and then there's me.
Well, how'd you talk to him on the phone?
Yeah, so I used to set the phone down for a half hour at a time and just come back. Oh, yep, everything's good. Yep, that sounds.
you
I
don't
agree
say.
completely. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
It's like talking to a phone window salesman.
He could talk. He always had a lot of interesting stories. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it started when he was a kid. I mean, he just, I remember, because I got pulled out of high school the day he was born. And we went down to the hospital. Had to sit in the waiting room. That's back in the day when you could still do all that stuff.
A little different now.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Dad coming out saying, it's a boy. And it was on from then. I mean, piggyback rides on the back, and then as he got older, he started running around, and he used to hate it when I would talk about how he'd run around the house with a damn pizza box on his head going, pizza, 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 pizza. It's the first words he could say, I think.
That's awesome. All right, so you guys grew up with him. You probably knew him better. I mean, I guarantee you knew him better than anybody here. What's kind of your favorite story about him? I mean, so the show's predominantly anything automotive, off-road we talked a lot about. Obviously, we got a lot into our personal lives, kind of how we got where we are. What's kind of favorite stories about him? I know I've got one about you, Brett, that Keith told my mom at one point in time, so we'll circle back to that. I warned you that story was coming up.
Okay. I gotta get some more bourbon then, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so, well, I've got several. I mean,
Go ahead.
we spent a lot of time together. We talked almost every day the last couple of years. Growing up again when he was, there's obviously an age difference between us. But I was 17 when he was born. But so as he was going through high school and college and all that kind of stuff, we weren't as close as we were like a lot of siblings. They develop bonds later in life, and he would call me almost every day and tell me these just ridiculous stories about what he did at the company he was working for and how they would demolish things and how he would be creative. They tore down a bank and they had to get the vault door out. So he built a ramp. And this was one of the first jobs that he was assigned as a foreman. And he built a ramp going out the door, and he ran chains up to this vault door and yanked it off the hinges and pulled it out the door with the excursion. And his boss showed up, and the vault door is sitting out in the parking lot, and he's like, how the hell did you get that done? He's like, ingenuity.
That's awesome.
Told everybody else to stand aside, but that's just what he did. Heath had that way of looking at things. He could figure it out in his mind and then make it happen with duct tape and bubble gum, pretty much. And I think it all came from, I remember when your grandparents, the Glazes, were in town, and we all went to Frankenmuth. Keith was little. If you were around, you were an infant. And we came out of one of the restaurants, and there was a guy actually sitting there working on a motorcycle. The motorcycle was obviously broken down. Everybody was trying to go back towards the hotel. And Keith just stopped dead in his tracks, staring at this guy working on this motorcycle. I mean, the crankcase is torn apart, right?
Jeez.
And everybody wanted to keep going, and our dad said, stop. Hold on. We've been doing what we wanted to do all day. This is something he wants to do. So we actually stood around for like 30 minutes while he watched this guy in amazement. And again, he was just a little tyke, but he was into it back at that age.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Jeez.
I'm sure somebody else has some other story.
Oh, looking at you, Brett.
Geez, I'm on the spot here. There's just so many, you know what I mean? It's like
Cuba.
They all blend together, in time. Yeah, Cuba was very fun. We got to go, me and Stephanie and I and Keith, and we had some good times down there.
I've heard they have good rum.
Good rum? I don't remember the rum. I don't know. That's the thing with Keith and I is we have a lot of drinking stories, but I don't think I remember a single one of them because we did our fair share.
Those are the great ones.
A fair share of drinking. I'm on the spot here. It's always tough on the spot,
Hell yeah. Drink some more bourbon. We can come back.
I drink some more. He helped give me my first car since it's a car show here. It's a '73 Dodge Dart Swinger. That was.
I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, I still got it.
That's awesome.
It's it was nice of him to do that. He always I don't know.
I was willing to help people out with cars and vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of listeners know I got my start in the off-road world and just working on cars from Keith. And it all stemmed back to 2009. Little rock quarry in Ohio called Gilboa Quarries, where we did a lot of scuba diving. And he started, the guy who owned the place wanted to hit the world record for most number of divers submerged at one time. So Keith and I went down there days before the event. We helped the guy set up. I mean, we stayed there. He had a house that he let us stay in. And we worked, we'd start 6 in the morning, work till 2 a.m. the 3 days leading up to the event. And it's funny. I came across a picture on my phone the other day on Facebook of, it would have been the day that we started working on Project XJ. So 88 Jeep Cherokee I've been working on building up. If you guys want the rundown, I'll give it to you another time. Everybody listening has heard this story a dozen times. At that time, the Jeep was tentatively sold. Guy had a deposit. At that particular time, I could change a spare tire out. I could jump start a car and add fluid. And Keith offered to teach me how to do body work, how to do mechanical work, suspension, to teach me how to do all this stuff. It's back when he was in the house on Mill Street. And the agreement was, you can keep it here, you can use my tools, I'll teach you how to do this if you're here doing the work. Any materials, your cost. And it was, if I looked back, I could get the date that plan started. I brought that Jeep over to his house at the time, and it snowballed from that into where we are today. And, doing the engine swap in the Wrangler. Getting that, taking off on that, rebuilding transmissions, axles, completely designing suspension, learning how to weld to fix floors. I mean, it snowballed into something I never thought it would get into. That's all stemming from that. And, going on wild off-road, not even off-road, but just parts run trips with him all over the state.
Yeah, I got into scuba with him. You say that, actually. I was
Yep.
actually the one who got him into scuba diving. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
I was going to college in Macomb and needed to take a course for,
Phys ed.
phys ed, yep.
Yep.
And so,
Same reason I did it.
yep. And so I said, hey, Keith, I said, it's, $300 to go and get it done privately or $200 to go get it
Yep.
at college. So he says, I said, you want to go to college with me? And so he did. So we went
Back
to
to
college and
school.
back to
Back to
school.
school.
And we got our college, we got our scuba diving training, and
We talked about that one episode, and that's where I met both you guys.
yep,
I started helping with the classes after I was certified. You and Keith were the first two students I ever saw from Scuba 101 to certified.
yep.
And I don't remember if you and I ever dove after that. Keith and I did quite a bit of diving after that, though.
I had about 30 dives in with Keith, and
Nice.
he was also there on my last dive. We were under the Mackinac Bridge, and
I remember the story.
yeah, we had a little incident where we were down 120 feet on
remember
a
that from the
freighter,
story.
and they call it double penetration, where you're into the second part of the ship there, and you have a tether line going in.
You're supposed to be, there's another class for that,
Oh, is
right?
there? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure about that one. We'll have to do some research, but ran out of air, and by the time we got out of the ship, because we were so deep, so cold, my regulator had what's called a free flow, and it's just ice crystals, and my air is just pumping out and pumping out and pumping out. And by the time we got to the top, the air is gone, and I took my last breath, and Keith and I were having some buoyancy issues, so I couldn't get him, and raised to the surface there, and did emergency ascent over 100 foot plus. There's not many people that can say that.
No.
And weirdest feeling breathing out the entire time, just
Oh, yeah.
nonstop bubbles out. Just breathing out and coughing up some blood through me on oxygen, and and then the guy tells me we can go to the hyperbaric. I don't know how to say
Hyperbaric.
it. Yeah, hyperbaric chamber. Says about $30,000-$40,000. I said no, thank you. And he said, well, you got about 24 hours to know. If you have a bubble in your brain or your heart, and so I said, well, Keith, let's go to the casino. So that's what we did. We went to the casino, got wasted, drank it up, lived our lives, and I'm still here. But
Absolutely.
that's a good one, good
So
memory
you
there.
followed the right procedures
Yeah.
to a point.
It's our last day. He would have had it the same way. If he knew it
Yep.
was his last day, he would have been sitting there drinking right here with us.
Yep. No, I remember it was some family gathering that he was at with my family, and something came up about you. I don't know how it started. And Keith told this story to my mom, and to date, this is her favorite story she's ever heard from any of my friends. And you were quite young. I don't remember all the details. I don't even remember hearing the story from him. But apparently you got the bright idea to climb a cactus.
Yep. That's
And Keith sat there and watched you.
yeah. He wasn't the best babysitter. He left me. I was telling my friend here. He left me at the playground, the park there when I was 7 years old. My mom told me this one. He come home and he starts playing video games, and he was, he must have been. I was 7, he was 14, and where's Brett? Oh, I don't know. He literally just left me at the.
Jeez.
Yeah. That shows how much you really watch me. He was a great babysitter now. So he, that was a good one. But
That's funny. Looked like you wanted to say something there, Andrew?
I was just wondering what Keith was doing at a family get-together of your family. Was it a date?
No, nothing like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, he'd, like New Year's Eve and stuff, he'd occasionally come over for a couple times. You guys came out to one or two things, I don't remember what, but different events my parents had, things like that.
Not what I was picturing in my head.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of drunken times around bonfires. I remember one time, I know you were there, he was lighting a cigar with a blowtorch. And as y'all know, he didn't have a whole lot of feeling in his hands. And Stephanie's sitting going, your hand's on fire. He's like, what? And he pulled it out, and his hand was on, just flaming on fire. And he had no idea.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, he loved his cigars, that's
loved
for sure.
cigars, and his bourbon, and his cars, and you guys, and all that.
Cheap bourbon or good bourbon. So we have both options to salute him with here today. So.
He wasn't too good on his marijuana, though. I tell you, we were over the house one time, and he saw I had some brownies, and he ate one. He says, "Does nothing." Mind you, this is a minute later. Okay, you know.
I can picture him saying that. Too.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
that,
yeah.
This is nothing.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing. This doesn't do anything for me. This is nothing's good here, you know. So a minute later,
And didn't my son make those brownies?
yeah, he did. Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah. So a minute later, takes another one. Nothing, still doing nothing.
Oh,
Keith,
boy.
stop, Keith. You know, one full sheet pan of brownies later, he's man, drooling. Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't there, but I heard the story
Yeah,
because he told it with pride.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. If
To this day,
pride's the word for that.
To this day, he swears it wasn't the brownies that made him sick. You know.
Yeah.
He was just tired.
Yeah, just tired that day. But 'cause
Yeah. Thank you.
nothing could ever make him. You know, he could always have one more drink than you.
Yeah. God, I remember, was it his going away party when he went to commercial dive school? He didn't even remember half the night. If I remember, because you were there, yeah, he passed out next to the fire for a while.
Oh yeah.
To get him up, walk him in the house.
No, same when we went down to Dominican, I think it was too. Same thing. I think we had about 8 or 9 Bahama Mamas out of a coconut. We're
boy.
sitting there, we're laying on the beach. We got burnt up that day. I remember that one
believe it.
specifically.
Oh, hell, just last time we were down in Florida, you, Keith, Mom, and
Yeah.
I. We were down in Florida, and I was down there a couple days before you guys got there with Mom, and we had to go come pick you guys up to the airport. And Keith's standing there, swaying to the left, swaying to the right. He drank a bottle of whiskey before he got on the flight. A full damn bottle of whiskey. Brett said he slept for about 15 minutes, popped back up, and was ready to go again.
Oh,
Sounds
that's one
about
of his
right.
One of his favorite things, drinking before the airplane. We used to always go to the Coney Island and get our breakfast and beer and
Nice.
Oh yeah, gotta get drunk before the plane. Of course.
Was it Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend? Again, another thing in my house. Whatever it was, big thing my parents did, and he came out, and we're walking around, and he determines, so we have a full-size horse and a miniature horse. And the full-size horse loves beer. Keith discovered this, mind you. The little horse loved whiskey. And Keith had brought, at one point in the night, he handed me the bottle, says, I should probably be done with this. And shortly before that, there was a picture taken of him sitting in a clawfoot bathtub that's on the side of our house. Just sitting there, just with the whiskey. And it was one of the funniest things. Again, another favorite picture of a lot of people who've seen that one. That was wild. I think my favorite, though, Jeff, is involving you. It was a weekend. I think it was all of you guys down in Florida at your mom's place. And you ran out of drinking cups.
He used his leg.
Yep.
I have a prosthetic leg that I drank out of. Yep.
Yeah, and
I think I still have
Keith
that
sent me
thing
a
here.
picture of that, and I could not stop laughing when I saw that. Oh my God, that was great.
I think I still have that here, because that's the trip I'm talking about when we were all down there, and he started. Yep, there it is.
Yep.
That's the one.
I think that could be the clip art for the episode.
I like it.
Yeah, we could do that. No, but here's another one too, because we're all out fishing, and he kept catching these stupid little crabs. Right? Little tiny things. He's holding up like this. So I took this photo, and that's just his typical shit-eating grin, right? Yeah. And I took this photo, I put it on Facebook, and I said, my brother's got crabs again.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
So, and then that's all the shells when we had that one jetty. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how the hell all these things got there, but as large as this, or twice the size of this room, and as far down as you can dig, it's just shells.
Jeez.
So I don't know if it's the graveyard for where the pelicans put all their
I mean, maybe. Animals do some weird
mussels that
stuff.
they eat. But yeah, we had that was a great trip.
Nice. I remember one of the trips he and I went on, I think it just started here, and we had a diesel engine we were taking to Chad at Quick Draw. And we were stopping by this other guy's place. He wanted to, the goal was if we get the engine running, he was going to buy the engine. So we were going to spend that night ripping that engine out, throw it on the trailer, and then go to Chad's the next day. Well, we messed with that truck for probably 2 hours, couldn't get it going. So he made an offer to the guy. Guy's like, no, I got to try it. All right, cool, whatever. So Keith loved, I don't know the word, the dive bar equivalent of Chinese buffets. So we found this place on Google, and we went there, and it was pretty good food. Like better than what you normally find at a Chinese buffet. And we're sitting there, and we're looking around, and we're getting ready to go, and we saw these dudes coming in, and they have shirts cut halfway down their chest, and they're wearing gold chains, and we noticed they were all missing the same finger. So we're pretty sure we stumbled into some sort of Chinese mob or Yakuza, I think it's Japanese, whatever it is, but some kind of mob club or something. So we very quickly paid our bill and left.
Well, that's not the first time he's done something like that. Years ago, my son Jimmy was coming up in basketball. He was on traveling teams, in the off season. And I mean nationwide traveling teams. Well,
Nice.
they ended up out in the national championship out in Vegas. He wanted to come out and see, and Keith was not a sports enthusiast. I mean, I had to tell him about, like the refs would blow the whistle. What happened? What's wrong? Well, you can't walk with the ball. I mean, you got to, So I was teaching him as he was watching this stuff.
Yeah.
So it was time for me to come back, but Keith was staying out there with Jimmy for a couple more days. And he had his typical, I call it his Charlie Sheen look. The bowling shirt, the shorts, right? And the loafers. And he's like, come on, let's go in here. I get this picture at like 3 o'clock in the morning. My phone goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning. And anybody knows, you got kids, anything goes off after midnight, it's nothing good. Well, it turns out this time, it's Jimmy. I'm like, oh shit, Keith needs bail, something.
Reasonable thought.
And he's like, hey, listen, this guy wants to talk to you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, we're at this party and this guy wants to talk to you, And he goes, hello, Mr. Quinn, it's Will Smith. I just met your son. He's a pretty cool kid. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Who, And he goes, and I can hear him as he's taking the phone away. He's like, I told you he wouldn't believe me. And then Jimmy goes, just say it. And this was right when the movie had just come out. And he goes, I have got to get me one of these. And I was like, honey, wake up, it's Will Smith. And she goes, is he in the room? I said, no. She says, then tell him to call me later. But then there's a picture, and there's this thing they stumbled into, and there's Will Smith and not Charlie Sheen. Who the hell was there? Was somebody else in there? But that was the biggest one for Jimmy that he was excited
awesome.
about. And it was some private thing. They walked in through the alley entrance, and Keith's like, let's just go in here.
That sounds like something he would do.
Yeah. You talk about Keith's sense of humor and all the different stuff that he did. He and I would always go back and forth with stupid dad jokes.
Oh God, he had some bad ones.
So.
Like stupid bad, not like.
I think the last one I told him was this: a lady walks into the vet's office and she's holding this limp duck in her hands, and she says, Doc, you got to help me with my duck. He says, I think your duck's passed. I don't think there's anything I can do. She says, are you sure? He goes, okay. He goes out and he comes back in, and Black Lab jumps up on the exam table, sniffs the duck and paws the duck and licks it, looks up at the vet, shakes its head. And he goes, I'm telling you, the duck's dead. She goes, I just don't want to believe it. He's like, all right, fine. He takes the lab out. He comes back with a cat and sets the cat down on the examining table. Cat does the same thing. Paws at it, licks it, nudges it, looks up at the vet, nods his head, and he goes, lady, I'm telling you, your duck's dead. She says, okay. He takes the cat down and he goes over to the computer, punches up an invoice, and hands it to her. And she says, $150. He goes, listen, if you were to listen to me, it would have been $20, but you had lab work and a CAT scan.
Nice. God, I can't think of any corny ones he told me. Some of them were just that bad. It's not even worth remembering.
Yeah, we try to do that every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember some other ones. You guys got to have something. All right, favorite. Did you ever go do any wheeling trips with him or truck stories?
Yeah, we had a lot of good memories up at the cabin. We have a cabin up in Munising.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yep, and I got a couple stories, I guess, with that. Oh man, one time we were up there snowbogging. Actually, it was a convoy.
Snowbogging. Now, what is that?
Well, it's mud bogging, but instead of mud, there's snow.
Ooh,
so
I like
it's up in. We went up to based out of Munising, but I don't know where we went. Manistee or Marquette, one of the two. I don't remember, but we're up there, and it was deep snow, 2, 3, 5 feet of snow. I don't remember, something deep. You know what I mean? But and we're going. It's a convoy of Jeeps. Keith didn't have a Jeep, of course. I don't think at the time, but and S10 I think he had with him. But
He had a lot of different vehicles.
yeah,
that's
he
for
did.
sure.
I don't remember, but and so we're in this convoy, and we're going through and trucking along, and all of a sudden we see this other little S10, but not but this one had no winches or anything on it. It just comes up flying behind us, and is trying to pass this convoy of Jeeps that's BFE in the middle of nowhere in the woods, like we must have been 2 hours from the nearest paved road. You know what I mean? And where this truck came from, no idea. And there's two guys, it looked like Mario and Luigi, drunker than a skunk, and they come trying to pass us, and they keep trying to pass us. We tell them you can't get around. We're literally using winches to tug us along through the snow, getting stuck every 5 feet. You know what I mean? It's a slow process.
Yeah.
Some of the snow bugging was, and they try. So then they get to a point and they literally try jumping over us. There's probably 10 cars, so they try revving up as fast as they can. These two drunk guys, and they try jumping, and they land in a snowbank, and the snow is literally up to their windows. They can't even, and they're completely stuck. And we got them out. Winch them out, say, guys, you guys got to turn around. And you can't do this. And about, get them all out. And okay, all right, just come on, follow behind us. We'll get you out of here. 20 minutes later, they got impatient because they're drunker than a skunk. Try the same shit again. You know what I mean? Tried revving up and jumping and get, off these little hills, get stuck again. And so we left them. I don't know what to tell you. They wouldn't listen. And to this day, I hope they got out of there. But they were up there. That was a pretty fun one. And then another time when we had to bury my grandpa's ashes, and Grandpa, he was an old school. He's a big time hunter, and so you don't hunt anywhere near the cabin. You have to go out. 3-4 hours away. Walking. In the marsh and the bog. And that was. So we took the 4-wheeler as far as we could to go, because he had the spot he called the knoll, and the knoll was, it's like a little hill in the middle of a swamp is what it is. A huge swamp, but it's still in the middle of winter when we're up there, and when we went to go bury his ashes. So we had to take the 4-wheeler for about an hour, and then we had to walk for a good 2-3 hours in the mud, but it's all, you had to break through the ice. Literally, you had to take your shirt off because it's so cold up there that you'll sweat to death.
Jeez.
So literally you're just walking around shirtless, even though it's in the middle of winter and 10 degrees outside, because that's how you do it. And but we had, so we went and buried his ashes on the knoll, and Grandpa was in World War II, and he didn't like the Japanese. He was in World War II. Not that I have anything against the wonderful Japanese, but his Grandpa, old school mentality, and. So that, and I guess the new owners of this property are Japanese. So
boy.
It was the final send off to Grandpa to go to his favorite spot and put him up there as the last, excuse my language, but F you to them. So that was a really fun trip with him. I got a lot of good memories and pictures. We spent a lot of time up at that cabin. It's just a dank, stinky hole in the wall with
I've heard about it.
Yeah, mice sticking through. There'd be a mice going through this aluminum foam siding, and you'd see a mouse every once in a while. You take a knife and right into the wall. You know what I mean? Or they get trapped in the kerosene.
Yeah.
And it'd be like a wick. Oh man.
Oh jeez.
Oh yeah, and they smell all night. Yeah, you wouldn't want that. But,
No.
We went up to that cabin all the time. We loved it up there. We really wanted to get another trip up there soon, but. We'll get up there.
Well, when you go, let me know. We talked about checking it out a lot. Never
it's a great
had the
place.
opportunity.
Yep.
Well, you had another story about the hunting trip up there with John.
Oh, John.
Jeff Jr.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
This was hilarious.
Yeah.
So we get
Go ahead.
I get a call, a frantic call from my son going, "Hey, I need you to put some money in my account." And I'm like, "Why? What the hell?" And so they do this drive up with a friend of theirs who, I'm just trying to figure out the way to say it nicely, who was new to the real world. He was a converted Joho.
Okay.
All right? So he'd been to our house at Christmas, and we had some presents for him. He didn't know what the hell to do. He just sat there holding them on his lap. We're like, "Open them," Well, this guy, everything was a new experience for him. So when they went up hunting, I get this frantic call saying, you got to put some money in my account. We got to go into town. We got to go grocery shopping. And so we just ended up doing it. But it was the storytelling by Keith when we got back that just made the whole thing. So these guys all went out hunting. Keith, Brett, Jeff Jr. I don't think there was anybody else besides John. John stayed back. When they got back.
We're out all night,
Yeah.
Till dark.
And when they got back, there was a buffet. He had cooked all the food.
Every single bit of food
For the
that
week.
we had for the entire week.
He goes, look what I've created.
I made
this magnificent
I made
meal.
a feast was his exact words. I made a feast. So he cooked every bit. And mind you, we're an hour and a half from the nearest paved road out there too.
boy.
Our cabin's deep in the woods.
Yeah.
You know, so he cooked every bit of food up for the entire week. He thought it was he thought that's what you did, and so we had to,
Oh, jeez.
you know, we had to make stew for the rest of the week. And put, you know, whatever you could possibly imagine all into one stew. You know,
Hot dog stew.
hot dog,
Oh,
mac
man.
and cheese, and
It was probably pretty good by the end of it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it could have been pretty bad too, I guess.
but that was.
But just the way Keith told it, and if he thought about it, he talked about a hunting story. He was like, I've got one, and but he would just the way he would do it, he would hold his arms out and
I
I've
made a
prepared
feast."
a feast.
Yeah. Not the brightest tool in the shed.
But it was funny to hear after the fact.
I loved just the way he told stories a lot like that. You know, when I first met him, and you know, Keith is definitely a storyteller.
Yep.
And a lot of times, if you first meet him, you think, "Oh, okay, sure, that's how it happened." And the more I got to know him, got introduced to a lot of his friends who were at these stories. You know, they were in the stories, and you hear them tell the story, and it's the exact same story, and it's like, "Oh, all right, that really happened there." Like, holy crap!
Yeah.
It was wild. Oops. Andrew, you looking to say something?
Not really.
Oh.
I'm just enjoying these stories.
You look like you're holding
I've
back
heard
there.
I've heard some of them before,
Yeah.
but you know, they don't get old.
No, they don't.
No. He was a very colorful storyteller
Yes.
and animated.
Yes.
Yes, like you were saying.
Contagious laughter.
Yeah.
Because if he's starting to laugh during the story, then you couldn't help it. You just
True.
had to start going right along with it.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many times, you know, talk about recording stuff over and like, all right, it's going to be an early night. And I know you've been victim to this probably about as many times as I have. You know, we're starting, all right, we got to be done by 8 o'clock or got to be done by 9 o'clock. Here it is, 11:30. Like, yeah, I'll have one more beer.
There were a few times when I was producing that I just like at a break, I'm like, all right, I'm leaving the recorder. I'll pick it up later, and I'd leave.
Yep.
You know, it's like got to be done by 9, 11 o'clock. I'm walking out the door, like, see you guys.
Yeah, I have been a few times. So I don't know, Stephanie, if you got a few minutes, if you'd like to chat with us tonight. You don't have to. It's up to you.
You want to come over here? Sit here so you don't have to hold the mic.
So, what do you have
Hold that big thing by your face.
favorite off-roading stories of Keith? Or anything to do with cars or just Keith in general here?
He built me my first 4x4.
Well, tell us about it.
It is a 2001 Tracker, Chevy Tracker, and he got it from a guy. It had been in an accident. The passenger side front end had been hit, pretty smashed up. Got it for only a couple $100,
Not bad.
and he did a bunch of body work on it, pulled out the fender, the side door, and put some new wheels and tires on it. And gave it to me for St. Patrick's Day.
That's an unusual gift-giving holiday, but whatever.
right. Yeah, no, brought it over to the house on a trailer and said, here you go. Brand new 4x4.
That works. I remember talking to him a few times about possibly lifting that and even bigger tires. I think there's, 31s on it, which is
Yep.
like 3 or 4 sizes above stock tire size.
Yeah, he bought the tires. They were Hankook, the Zamboni tires with the little studs in them. Yeah. I spent many hours in the shop down there in Marine City pulling the studs out of the tire.
Oh, jeez.
You know Keith though. Go big or go home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. Remember, any of his projects, he was always talking about how big and this is a very common thing in the off-road world, how big a tire can I run before I have to trim? And then if I lift it, how big can I go before I have to trim? And he was always trying to find that maximum happy medium. And he usually figured it out. I mean, tires are kind of a thing, again, in the off-road world. You can run big and they'll self-clearance eventually. You might not like how it looks, but they'll do the work for you. Yeah, he loved the big tires, though. That's for sure. So what else you got? Oh, favorite story of Keith in general. No problem. No problem. Anybody else?
Favorite story of Keith you can share? Two different questions.
Very true. Very true.
No. We had many off-road trips. Many off-road trips. He introduced me to the off-roading world. He introduced me to downhill skiing. Lots of things. So many trips, road trips.
Yeah.
You know.
It's hard to pick just one, isn't it? So it's just
It is,
So
it
many
is.
things. Yep.
Oh yeah.
So,
You look back at it.
you know.
Yep.
Yes, I know. Leaving here today, I'll probably remember 3 or 4 more that I
Yep.
wanted to talk about
Absolutely.
and forgot.
For sure.
Yeah.
We were in Cuba. We went out. It was remember when we wanted to go to you think it's Cuba, you know, and there's nobody, you know, it's unspoiled land and paradise, and so we said let's go to the beach, and we went to the beach, you know. So we go down and it's just, you know, beautiful. Nobody's around, just white sand, clearest beaches in the world, you know. Nobody, you know, it's just us, and we get out there and we we're ready to go swimming, and the second we get out into the water, black flies, because it's so
Unkept.
unkept, right?
Yeah.
It is. That's, you know, you think paradise is going to be this beautiful thing. No one. There's no, you know, no one upkeeping anything. It would
Yeah.
so we're all. I remember sitting in the water, and we had to keep our noses and our eyes underwater, because the second you get out, you just get eaten alive on these
Deal
most
with that on
beautiful
the boat.
beaches you ever seen. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But there's a little something me and
And
Stephanie.
then it stormed.
Yeah.
And then it stormed that day.
Yeah.
And we ended up in that little hut thing with a bunch of people. We ate and
Yeah.
had a good old time there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, he always talked to the locals. You know, I was telling these guys earlier about the locals, how they had, you know, no roof, no nothing, just four cement walls, but Keith always wanted to go talk to him. You know, it didn't matter what you had. It didn't matter if you're, you know, the guy in the, you know, 4-story house or the little tiny cardboard shack. He would be your friend. You know what I mean? And you would go and.
He did that at bars a lot. We went to.
Oh yeah, we made friends with everybody down there, and you know, just, you know, I think at one point we wanted to try to go get kidnapped in Cuba. We didn't, you know, we basically, you know, we're sick of the city and see the city
Jeez.
sights, and wanted to get as deep into the jungle as we could, and it didn't matter. You would get along with everybody. Never found one person.
It's not
we couldn't
something
get
most
along
people do in a foreign country. Is
No.
just we want to go out into the woods.
with. Yeah, that's what we.
I mean,
wanted
I'd
to
love
do.
it too. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but you run a lot of risks doing that in a place like that.
No, that's the thing, is he, you know, he could work in Detroit or you know, in the middle of the jungle in Cuba and still feel safe, because he was that kind of person. You know,
That's
He could
awesome.
Get along with anybody.
Right, your beach story reminded me of something else. We had taken a road trip out west just a few years ago, and we drove through all the states, stopped in, you know, Utah, and went to Moab and Zion, and on in through Vegas and California, stopped in LA, and down back around, and we stopped in Louisiana, and yeah. I know. I see
You're
your
gonna have
mind.
to explain that one.
A little bit, you know, Utah, West Coast. No, we're you know, a time jump
exactly,
there. But, yeah.
exactly. We were going to Texas. So anyway, we decided we're gonna do some, you know, camping, real honest to God camping. We're on a beach in Louisiana, and we set up the tent. And the wind is crazy. We ended up taking the back seat of the excursion out, putting it in the tent so that the tent would not blow away.
Jeez.
Yep. Kids are going to spend the night in the tent. Keith and I are going to camp in the car. Yep. So we put the seats in the tent so the tent won't blow away.
Honest to God camping in the excursion. Got it.
Yep.
Yep.
So we decided we're going to go on a nighttime walk on the beach. And we were just walking down the beach. And all of a sudden, there's all these little crabs everywhere. They come out at night.
He likes
All
his
these little
crabs.
crabs.
Yeah, more crabs.
Yep. Little tiny
I
crabs
think the
everywhere.
crabs liked him.
They keep the gift that keeps on giving.
We've got the youngest kids with us on the walk, and my youngest, my son, scared to death of these little crabs because they just pop out of nowhere and they go skittering across the sand, and he is scared to death. He is like stopped in his tracks, screaming,
Jeez.
and Keith just grabs him up and holds him and just carries him the whole rest of the way down the beach because he is just crying and crying because these crabs are just gonna get him.
That's hilarious.
It was was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the thing, is a lot of your moments, you know, your best moments are things that, you know, you don't appreciate until they, you know what I mean? You don't really
For sure.
think about it like that, and they might not sound as crazy or as interesting to everyone, but you remember it in your own way.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
It's hard to think of things off the top of your head.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I know everybody's kind of on the spot here, but that's okay because that's where you get to the fun ones.
Well, there's another trip you guys took where you borrowed my trailer, and I've been trying to sell this stupid thing. No go.
You're talking like camping trailer, right?
Oh, it's like a 35-footer.
Oh, all right. It's pretty significant size.
And so I said, should this happen to burn down while you're using it, it's well insured. Don't worry, I'll cover your hotel bills.
Gotcha.
On the way home, he's like, the coffee pot caught on fire, but don't worry, I threw it outside. I'm like, what the hell? I told you to let it burn.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we went to Mammoth Caves with your trailer.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I took.
Nice.
So listen, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Aaron, like, tell the story. Oh, come on.
Place it in.
Come on. It's fun.
Hey.
You're already telling. Just
Yeah.
hold the mic.
Yeah, start over.
Or just sit here and put the mic in front of you. That way you don't have to hold it.
Yeah. You want to do that? It's a good story.
What'd she say? Fuck.
Start from the beginning.
So, anyways.
Okay, so one of Keith's favorite off-road stories was when he was following Lucas up to an off-road event called Gitchgumi. And it's in Sault Ste. Marie area, and but it's in Canada. So he gets up to Border Patrol, and Border Patrol says he's following Lucas. And Border Patrol says, "Where are you going?" Keith says, "Gitchgumi." Border Patrol guy's like, "What? Where are you going?" Keith says, "Gitchgumi." The Border Patrol guy is super confused. He's like, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "I'm following that guy. I'm going to Gitchgumi." There's no such thing as Gitchgumi. Border Patrol is so confused. He says, "I'm with him." And he goes, "Oh, you're going to Blueberry Hill Campground, or campground that you're staying at." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to Gitchgumi." Border Patrol says, "No, you're not."
Oh, that's awesome.
Not now, you're not.
I can totally see that interaction, too. That's the best part about that. And him just being so dead serious. Like, this is a federal border agent, international level guy here, and you're just screwing with...
Keith wouldn't have cared. I could have seen that.
Oh,
being
yeah.
Completely, like, just Keith screwing with the guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
100%.
Well, imagine Keith in his cars and Canada's no rust laws. How many times he got pulled over in Canada for some rust on his vehicle? And I'm not talking just a spot. You know, he's always come back and tell me the horror stories of that, because they don't let any rust in your cars.
There's one, it was somewhere up north, and I guess his mom was flying in, your mom and dad were flying in somewhere, and they had to go pick him up. And the car, whatever it was he was driving, had no back seat. And there were so many rust holes in the floor and the ceiling. It was an off-road only rig. That's what he picked them up in and drove them back to wherever it was you guys were going. And I guess your mom had made a comment, something about all the stars they could see through all the holes in the ceiling.
It's a good vehicle.
Yeah.
That's one of the best ones we had, probably.
I don't remember the story, but maybe one of you guys do. The story about when he went over to Canada in an old rusty wrecker for Al.
Gotta get the floors.
To pick up some lumber for
The hardwood floors, yeah.
You remember that story?
That's basically the same thing, you know, getting pulled over for the rust. That's kind of
Oh,
what's going,
jeez.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never be allowed there with anything of mine.
Yep.
Thank you all for being here.
Now he's at 30 words.
Everything's much appreciated. Obviously goes without saying, Keith will be missed. You know, I do plan to try and continue this show. Keep it as wheeling. It's going to go on. You know, that's something we always talked about, was keeping this going and seeing what happens in a few years. So it's going to take me a while to kind of figure out a new format for it, but it's going to continue for sure. So with that, I think that's about wraps it up. So I'm going to leave this to you guys here.
Thanks for listening, and have a good day, everybody.
Now let's go in the garage and break something.
Let's do it.